Anthony Smith versus Aleksandar Rakic takes place this weekend in the main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 8, Smith versus Rakic. It's a short notice replacement of a main event, so it's a 3-rounder. Very important to take into consideration here when giving a prediction for this matchup. But it's an amazing matchup, a very important matchup for the light heavyweight division right now, because ever since Jon Jones recently vacated that light heavyweight title and Reyes versus Blachowicz has been announced for the vacant belts, light heavyweight just blew itself wide open, and there's a way clearer path to the title than there was before. And I feel like these matchups that are happening right now and around this certain time period, including Reyes versus Blachowicz, are going to be amazing. We're going to set the stones and the foundations of how we're going to proceed in the light heavyweight division from now. And I think the winner of this matchup is going to be in an amazing position. I feel like the winner of this matchup is going to be Aleksandar Rakic. I feel like he gets the job done by unanimous decision. I'm thinking more of a 29-28 scorecard. I feel like Rakic is going to get the first 2 rounds pretty comfortably. And then it's all going to be on how does he survive the 3rd round. Because as we've seen in the past with Aleksandar Rakic, he does seem to slow down. We saw that in his last fight with Volkan Ozdemir. Volkan Ozdemir had a good 3rd round against Aleksandar Rakic. I thought Rakic won the first 2 rounds pretty clearly, but you know what? It was a close fight. I'm not willing to say that Rakic versus Ozdemir was a robbery. I just think it was a close fight where the wrong decision was made. I thought Rakic got the first 2 rounds against Ozdemir, but what we did see was him slow down significantly in that 3rd round, and that seems to be a problem with Aleksandar Rakic because he's very good, very technical, and when you come up against a guy like Anthony Smith, who is a guy who gets stronger as the fight goes on, I mean, the amount of times Anthony Smith has been losing a fight and then has came back to win in those later rounds, I can't even count them anymore. We saw it against Alexander Gustafsson. Close fight, don't get me wrong. Gustafsson was edging ahead. Smith comes back in later rounds. Volkan Ozdemir chewing up Anthony Smith in that 2nd round, completely destroying him. Looking like a Teixeira rematch for Anthony Smith. I mean, Ozdemir was on top of Anthony Smith on the ground, pounding him out in that 2nd round, and then Smith comes back in the later rounds. I mean, it just seems to be a trend in Smith's career where he comes back in the later rounds. I feel like with this being a 3-round main event, I'm going to feel safer about my prediction of Aleksandar Rakic. Because if this was a 5-rounder, I'm not picking Rakic, because I don't think that Aleksandar Rakic is going to finish Anthony Smith. I haven't seen too much finishing ability from Aleksandar Rakic in his career. Went to a decision against Justin Leday. He's had some other decisions in his career. He finished Devin Clark with a back fist. That was kind of a weird situation, but he finished him still. Went to a decision against Francisma Barrasso. Like, he's had some decisions in his career against lesser opponents that he hasn't quite been able to get out of there, including Ozdemir, which he lost. I don't feel like I'm willing to say that because he finished Devin Clark and because he finished Jimmy Chinny Manawa that he's going to go out there and beat Anthony Smith, because as much as you can shit on Anthony Smith all you want about how he's losing a lot of fights to Glover Teixeira in his last performance, that was a little bit embarrassing. He got the piss beaten out of him for the past 3 rounds of that fight. It could have been stopped a little bit sooner, but you know what? He took all that damage. You can shit on Anthony Smith all you want. One thing you can't say is it's very hard to finish him, because even in that Teixeira fight with Anthony Smith and Glover Teixeira, even people were saying, this fight should be stopped. They could stop this fight 2 rounds earlier. It should have been stopped here. The referee is an absolute disgrace. The cornermen are an absolute disgrace. Every single time the referee told Anthony Smith to show him that Anthony Smith was still in there, Anthony Smith made a movement, advanced to a little bit of a better position, showed some kind of resistance. Like, it was a very awkward situation for the referee to be in, because the rules are, if the referee sees that you're not quite defending yourself, he tells you to show that you can defend yourself. And if you're showing that you defend yourself, the referee's kind of doing his job for now. Like, we saw that in the Aldo versus Yan stoppage. I feel like that's a rule that needs to be maybe revisited. I feel like if you have to tell a fighter to show that they're defending themselves more than 3 times within a 1-minute period, maybe you should just call off the fight altogether, because clearly they're not in a position to get to a better position, because there's a very different thing between defending yourself and showing me that you're alive. If I'm a referee and I'm telling a fighter to show me that you can defend yourself, I want to see them start to get back to their feet. I want to see them cover up, look to roll over, look for a different position to try and advance out of and get out of the situation. I don't want to just see you show a little bit of a shrug of a shoulder or spasm your fucking right hand while you're in a rear naked choke. Like, that just tells me you're alive. You're not really defending yourself. But even still, I'm going to go with Aleksandar Rakic here. I like his style versus Anthony Smith, especially in a 3-rounder. I don't think Smith's going to have enough time to bounce back after the first 2 rounds. And those first 2 rounds, in my opinion, are going to be an absolute striking display from Aleksandar Rakic. I could see him getting the TKO. I just don't think it's going to happen. I know Smith took a lot of damage against Glover Teixeira, so this probably would be a better time to predict Smith getting KO'd by Aleksandar Rakic. From what I've seen of Rakic's career so far in certain fights, he caught Jimmy Manuwa with a perfect head kick. I know that altogether. Like, we saw that. He caught Manuwa with a perfect head kick. In other fights, he's very patient. He does not really go for the finishes as much. Like, although he hurt Devin Clark and went for it, unless he has you hurt and you're showing him that you're there to be finished and ready to be finished, he's not really going to exert himself too much to get it. We saw that against Volkan Ozdemir. He didn't feel the need to go after Ozdemir. There was many moments in that second round and first round against Ozdemir where he looked like he might have staggered Ozdemir, where a guy like Jiri Prochaska would have been bouncing around all over the place looking for a finish. Rakic was very technical. He waited for Ozdemir to come to him, picking apart Ozdemir for the first 2 rounds. Second round was close, don't get me wrong, but still, very good performance against Ozdemir. I feel like the switch kick to the body is something that's going to be there in this fight for Aleksandar Rakic. Anthony Smith is a very tall man with short arms. His elbows sit pretty high on his body. He has a high guard as well, likes to keep his hands up, and I feel like if Rakic can get Smith biting on the hands, he'll find that switch kick to the body in the body kick as well. We've seen guys use body kicks against Anthony Smith in the past, most notably Thiago Santos, who finished him with a body kick at middleweight not too long ago. But still, I just feel as though Aleksandar Rakic is on a little bit of a different level, and I don't want to shit on Anthony Smith too much here. I feel like he sits a little bit too heavy on his lead leg. He has a very wide stance in the early rounds, and it's because normally when Anthony Smith fights shorter opponents, which is what he normally does fight, he's a tall guy for the division, I believe 6'4", 6'3". He's used to fighting shorter opponents, so he likes to spread his base and get on their level. I've noticed that a lot in Anthony Smith's fight. Whether he's going to do that against Rakic or not, maybe this will be the time that we found out, but he still looked like he kind of did the same thing against John Jones, who was a big, tall guy, sitting pretty heavy on his lead leg, wide stance, looked like the much smaller guy in the octagon against John Jones because of his base. I feel like Rakic is going to be slamming home leg kicks, faking with punches, slamming home body kicks, and I feel like the investments of Rakic early are going to mean that Smith can't come back in those later rounds. And I'll tell you this about Anthony Smith. I don't want to poop on him too much here, but I could not think of a much easier way to a title shot than beating Rashad Evans, Shogun Rua and Volkan Ozdemir all in a row to get your title shot against John Jones. I mean, that's just an absolute disgrace to me. Even though I like Anthony Smith, I really do respect him as a fighter. I actually like him as a person. He's actually kind of a funny guy. Whenever he does these little interviews where he talks about matchups and stuff, he always seems to have a very good thing to say about people, and he seems to have a nice joke here and there. He seems like a good person. I feel like he's good on the analyst desk as well. I just feel as though there was never a time where I considered Anthony Smith a #1 contender. Even when he beat Volkan Ozdemir, and I've said this for a long time, people that watch my channel quite a lot can probably vouch for this. I've always said if I was to pick one person to try and beat in the UFC if I had no fighting experience, it would be Anthony Smith in a top 10, top 5 level. Because he just seems like the guy who maybe is overperforming. I don't think he's going to overperform here, especially after the damage that he took against Glover Teixeira. He really should have got the win there, but, you know, the resurrection was real that night. Glover Teixeira got the job done. I just don't think I rate a win over Rashad Evans, Shogun Rua that much anymore. Like, I do rate the win over Volkan Ozdemir. It's a very good win. I do rate the win over Alexander Gustafsson, but we just watched Gustafsson get taken down in the first round against Fabricio Verdum and submitted pretty fucking easily, and Fabricio Verdum lost to Olenek. You know, like, it's just, I think some perspective has been shown on Anthony Smith's career recently. We're not seeing too much of Shogun Rua anymore. I know he's going back and forth with the trilogy that nobody asked for against Rodrigo Nogueira, but, you know, all good. I just don't think these names really mean anything anymore. Rashad Evans, to me, doesn't get you ranked in a light heavyweight division anymore. Shogun Rua doesn't set you up for a title elimination bout anymore in the light heavyweight division. I feel like time has moved on. After his last loss, it's very difficult to pick him because when you are... It's not just that he got beaten up. It's that his body was breaking down. His new teeth that he got were falling out. They're not going to be stronger this time round. I need people to understand this. It's very hard to pick Anthony Smith here because his teeth aren't going to be stronger. It's not a case of, oh, my teeth are falling out. Oh, I'll get super glue. get some glue, I'll put them back in. Yeah, just put them back in, they'll be stronger. No, they were put in the first time to stay in. Now they're falling out. They're not gonna stay in stronger this time. They're just gonna come out even easier. And against a guy who's going to be stinging your face with Rakic, I just don't see it working out for Anthony Smith. I feel like this might be the end of his career. I hope that it isn't. I hope that he bounces back after this loss to Aleksandar Rakic. I just think it's very hard to bet against Aleksandar Rakic in a 3-rounder. And if he wins this one, I could see him going out there looking for a Jiří Procházka matchup, maybe. If he's got some cojones on him, he can take on Jiří Procházka, because right now, Jiří Procházka is a high-risk, kind of no-reward kind of matchup right now, because he's only had one fight in the UFC against Ozdemir. A lot of people know of him because of that one fight in the UFC against Ozdemir, but still, there's not really much value if Rakic wins this one to look back at Jiří Procházka and think, yeah, I'll take him on. I don't think he's ever going to do that. He's going to be looking forward. I think he's probably going to be looking for the loser of Glover Teixeira versus Thiago Santos, or the loser of Jan Blachowicz versus Dominic Reyes. Maybe one of those two matchups. But you know what? The winner of this matchup is in a great position. I just don't like it not being 5 rounds for Anthony Smith, because he would have lost to Gustafsson on the feet for 3 rounds if it wasn't a 5-round fight, you know? He would have, he would have lost anyway to Glover Teixeira, but he would have maybe still had some brain cells if that was a 3-round matchup. I feel like with no 5 rounds, with not enough time, he's not going to be able to turn the tide quick enough. And Aleksandar Rakic is another one of these guys who doesn't blow himself out looking for things. He's not going to be like Ozdemir was, because I feel like somewhat in that Ozdemir fight, I've watched it recently, they actually put up a free fight on YouTube. The Ozdemir fight, you could see in the second round, Ozdemir was really going for Smith in that second round because he sensed a finish. Rakic doesn't really do that. Like, he will stay barely ahead of you, which is why some of his performance may not seem as impressive as they actually are, but he does enough to win, and then as soon as he realizes he's ahead of you on points, he goes, okay, I don't really need to do much else. I'm ahead by 5 strikes here. I've won the round. He's not a guy that rushes things. He's not a guy that goes for stuff and exerts a whole bunch of energy looking for things. He's a very low output guy. I think he can keep that up for 3 rounds against Smith. Jab his face off. The switch kick to the body's there. The leg kicks are going to be there. I just think it's a little bit... And not to mention, I need to say this at the very end, Smith almost got murdered by Teixeira 3 months ago. The glue on your teeth hasn't even set yet, Anthony Smith. Let the glue dry that's holding your teeth back in first, before you turn around after that beating, which in my opinion is worse than a quick KO loss against Glover Teixeira, because he took a real big beating in that fight against Teixeira, and that's never a good sign. Like, I'd have rather he went out there and got clipped by Teixeira on the chin, got wobbled, never recovered, and just got a quick TKO finish in the first round and lost that way. He went out there and took a beating for a 10-8 beating for the majority of the last 3 rounds of that fight. He was getting beaten up badly. And he's back after 3 months. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it anymore. Punishment for stupidity. I'm picking Aleksandar Rakic to get the job done. Narrowly outstriking Smith. Well, clearly outstriking Smith for the first 2 rounds. I'll say narrowly outstriking him for the 3rd, but Smith's going to use a lot of takedowns and pressure, so I could see Smith winning himself the 3rd round. 29-28, Aleksandar Rakic. He gets the job done. Pay attention. Like and subscribe. Click that button over there, and goodbye.